Yes, I am now making a follow-up video to the last video I made, which was called For Disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witnesses Only. If you watched that entire video and understood it, then I suspect that it is the most profound, intensely profound, exciting thing that has ever happened in your entire life. In fact, that has ever happened in anyone's life since the start of creation. And if that's how you feel, then I can truly empathize, because I find these things to be intensely profound and perhaps a little fear-inspiring. And so hopefully in this video I can give you some comfort and also begin to answer some of the questions that I suspect you might have. Questions like, well, what do we do now? What's next? What's expected of me? Do I just sit here and wait, or am I expected to do something? And yes, indeed, you will be expected to do something, and it's something quite extraordinary. It's something amazing. And so I invite you to watch this video through to the end, and you should then get comfort that you'll understand, or begin to understand, what's expected of you. I won't spend much time trying to reconvince you of who you really are. The sons of Jacob, the sons of Zion, the sons of the living God. And I will try very hard to convince you with scriptural evidence of what needs to happen now and where we are in the Bible's timeline. If you haven't spent much time watching the other videos in my channel, then you will be at a disadvantage. I strongly recommend that you watch those other videos, and it will help you put together the pieces in order to see the bigger picture of what's happening. And I intend to not focus on all the supporting material, but rather just keep moving forward, and with the hope that my audience is able to keep up. When Jesus Christ said that the virgins would wake up and put oil in their lamps, he was not joking. You really need to have that oil in your lamps to be fully convinced about where we are and what we need to do. So if you do watch this video and you haven't watched any previous ones, you may not understand. And so I'll focus on those people who have watched those videos and are understanding, and in the hope that we can move forward and achieve those blessings that are in front of us to prevail and act effectively. In Daniel chapter 11, it says, those knowing their God will prevail and act effectively. So I will assume that my audience are Disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witnesses who are still Bible believers, who love Jesus Christ, and who know their God. And through this video, I will discuss those things that we need to do in order to prevail and act effectively. which suggests that we really do need to do something. And so with that, I'm going to jump right into the scriptures and begin to answer some of those questions that I suspect you have. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into the scriptures. And here we are in 2 Thessalonians. It's the famous scripture about the man of lawlessness. However, brothers, respecting the presence of our Lord Jesus Christ and our being gathered together to him. So if you watch the first video for Disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witnesses only, then you should already understand that we have been gathered. We have been gathered together to him. And so, if you're convinced of that, then what about the man of lawlessness? If you watch my videos in my channel, then you should already know who the man of lawlessness is and why they are the man of lawlessness. However, what I'd like to draw your attention to in the scripture, and that you should be intimately involved in, is where it says in verse 8, then indeed the lawless one will be revealed. And so that's already happened. If you've watched the videos in my channel, you know that the man of lawlessness has indeed been revealed. Now is the important part that's significant for you. It says here, whom the Lord Jesus will do away with by the spirit of his mouth. Very interesting. Keep that in mind. But notice here that something else will happen to the man of lawlessness. And it says, and bring to nothing by the manifestation of his presence. And so hopefully if you watched and understood the last video, then you'll know that the manifestation of his presence is when Jesus Christ will appear with rejoicing on your part. And they are the ones that will be brought to shame. Remember that in Isaiah chapter 66? And so, what happens before Jesus Christ appears? How does Jesus Christ do away with the man of lawlessness by the spirit of his mouth? And so exactly what is this spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth? I suspect that some of you may already understand what this is, but just in case, I'm going to go back to John chapter 16 and show to you what the spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth is. It's the truth. It's the convincing evidence. So let's go back to John chapter 16 and we'll understand what the spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth is and how the man of lawlessness will be done away with. So appreciate this, that there is a difference between doing away with the man of lawlessness and the man of lawlessness being brought to nothing. And so this is what will happen when Jesus Christ appears, with rejoicing on your part. However, right now, if you understand who the man of lawlessness is, he is still completely active and doing the same despicable, reprehensible things that he's done from the start. And so, through the spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth, that should change.
the man of lawlessness should be done away with. So let's go now to John chapter 16 and understand what the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth really is. So here we are in John chapter 16, and we're looking to understand what the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth is. And so here in John chapter 16, if we go to verse 12, Jesus Christ himself explains it. He says here, I have many things yet to say to you, but you are not able to bear them at present. However, when that one arrives, the Spirit of the truth. And so, does that sound like something coming from Jesus Christ's mouth? The truth. He will guide you into all the truth. For he will not speak of his own impulse, but what things he hears, he will speak. And so what things is he hearing? He's hearing the truth, the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth. And he will declare to you the things coming. That one will glorify me, because he will receive from what is mine, the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth, and will declare it to you. All the things the Father has are mine. That is why I said he receives from what is mine and declares it to you, the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth. And so, if you, as a disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness who loves Jesus Christ, are hearing things from the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth, and being helped to understand with convincing evidence things concerning sin and righteousness and the things that are coming. So what should you be doing after these things have been declared to you? In order to answer that question, we need to go to John chapter 15, which is just above here. And in John chapter 15 and verse 26, Jesus Christ says this. Listen very carefully. When the Helper arrives, that I will send you from the Father, the Spirit of the truth, which proceeds from the Father, that one will bear witness about me. So this is the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth that will do away with the man of lawlessness. And so what should you be doing? It tells you in verse 27. And you, in turn, are to bear witness. So, what are you to bear witness about? You, in turn, are to bear witness about the things that you have been helped to understand through the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth. And when you, in turn, bear this witness, the man of lawlessness will be done away with. So do you understand that it's through the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth that the man of lawlessness really will be done away with? And do you see how intimately involved you are in that process? It is you who will do away with the man of lawlessness. And you, in turn, are to bear witness. Why? Because you have been with me from when I began. You are the ones selected and chosen from the beginning. You are the sons of Jacob, the sons of the kingdom, the sons of the living God. And it's you who are to bear this witness through the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth, and the end result will be that the man of lawlessness will be done away with. You will achieve this.
So what I'd like to bring to your attention now is that you should understand we are in the hour, the last hour, because that hour has indeed arrived upon the entire world. And as a Disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness, you should be very aware of this after having watched my last video. And so, if you, in turn, are to bear witness during that last hour, during the final part of the days, and you are to bear witness about Jesus Christ, then I'd like to now make a connection to Revelation chapter 12, and you'll see that it is speaking about you. So here we go. Let's go to Revelation chapter 12. So here we are in Revelation chapter 12, and I'd like to draw your attention to the last verse. And it says here, "And the dragon grew wrathful at the woman, and went off to wage war with the remaining ones of her seed, who observe the commandments of God." And here's the important part. "And have the work of bearing witness to Jesus." And so remember what it said in John chapter 16. You in turn are to bear witness, and the helper will bear witness about Jesus Christ. And so who has the work of bearing witness to Jesus? It's you. And so to further prove that it is your work to do this, and that you are the remaining ones of her seed, I'd like to go back a little in Revelation chapter 12 and show you what it says in verse 11. In verse 11 it says, "And they conquered him because of the blood of the Lamb, and because of the word of their witnessing, and they did not love their souls, even in the face of death." And so, is this true? As the next Jehovah's Witness, a person who's being disfellowshipped, did you take a stand for Jesus Christ in your kingdom hall, even at the expense of losing your family, of losing your life? And did they kill your name? Name of person is no longer a Jehovah's Witness. And so
Do the people that you've left behind, do they lyingly say wicked things about you, even though you've taken this exceptional, amazing stand for Jesus Christ? In fact, they are committing a character assassination. And so they've killed your character, your name. And they continue to do this in the Kingdom Hall. And so I suspect that you have been living a life filled with weeping and grief. But if you now understand who you are and how much Jesus Christ appreciates what you've done, and that you have indeed conquered him, conquered Satan. And that is why it is the dragon, or Satan, who is growing wrathful at you. He does not want his unrighteous deception exposed. And yet, here, there is a small remnant of Disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witnesses who know and understand how spectacular Satan's unrighteous deception has been, and you are intimately involved with the situation. You have brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, daughters, sons who are held captive by Satan's unrighteous deception. And so, who is it that you should be witnessing to in order to expose that deception? It's those same people. It's your own family and those brothers and sisters that you've left behind in the Kingdom Hall. And so, will your witness, the spirit of the truth that you've heard from Jesus Christ's mouth, will your witness bring the man of lawlessness to nothing? The scriptures show that your efforts will have success. You will prevail and act effectively because you have the work of bearing witness to Jesus. And will Satan want his unrighteous deception exposed? No. But does Jesus Christ want Satan's unrighteous deception exposed in order, perhaps, to save a small part of those people that have been left behind? Your own family? Your brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, sons, daughters? Absolutely. And so, this is the work that Jesus Christ wants you to do. You, in turn, are to bear witness and expose Satan's unrighteous deception. And the wonderful part of your having success doing this is that the man of lawlessness will be brought to nothing, and perhaps you will save your own fathers, mothers, sons, brothers, daughters. Isn't that wonderful? The people who have been persecuting you are the same ones that you should be able to save. And this is what Jesus Christ wants you to do. And he guarantees that if you do this, you will have success. You will prevail and act effectively. Before we leave this chapter, there's a couple more things that need to be brought to your attention. You are the remaining ones of her seed. The remaining ones of the woman's seed. So what I'd like you to begin understanding is that you are the remaining ones of this woman's seed, which implies that you are not only the sons of Jacob, the sons of the living God, the sons of Zion, you are the bride. You are the bride of Jesus Christ, who has been engaged to him for a marriage. And if you are the bride, it is now your job to begin inviting people to the marriage feast. And if you've been asking yourselves the question, what is it that we're supposed to do now? Then I want you to understand that extending those invitations will be a part of your prevailing and acting effectively. There's one other thing I'd like to bring to your attention, and that is that the dragon grew wrathful at the woman and went off to wage war. Something very important for you to understand is that you are now at war. You are no longer expected to sit around weeping and grieving at the terrible situation of your life with your family shunning you. You are now a warrior. You are waging a war. So now I'm going to go to Revelation chapter 16 and help you understand what war you are waging. But before we go there, there's something more that I'd like to speak about the bride and the marriage. It's my strong conviction that the marriage will take place when Jesus Christ appears with rejoicing on your part. And you know that is still a future event. And so if you are the bride who is extending invitations to that marriage feast, then when Jesus Christ appears with rejoicing on your part, then the expectation is that you will have guests with you during that event that you have invited. And what kind of guests does a bride normally invite to her wedding? Her father, mother, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, mother-in-laws, daughter-in-laws. Those are the kind of guests that a bride would normally invite. She would invite her relatives and friends. And in a spiritual sense, those relatives and friends are your
spiritual brothers and sisters, the ones you've left behind in the kingdom hall. With that in mind, we'll talk more about that expectation later, because it's another thing that you're expected to do, to bring a 10th part with you into the storehouse, ready for the marriage feast. So here we are now in Revelation chapter 16. This is the chapter that speaks about kings of the earth being gathered to a place called Armageddon, and it also speaks about those kings of the earth who are awake and happy. Why? Because they already know that Jesus Christ has come like a thief. And so this is where it's very important that you've watched my previous video. If you did not watch that video, then you won't understand how Jesus Christ already has come like a thief and gathered together his chosen ones. Now, the dragon will wage war with the remaining ones of the woman's seed. And so if you have watched my video, Jehovah's Witnesses, When is Armageddon? You'll know when the gathering to that place called Armageddon started. And so now we are at that point in time where we're at war. You are at war with Satan, the dragon. In order to prevail and act effectively, you need to watch those previous videos. So these kings of the earth who have been gathered to the place called Armageddon, those kings of the earth will war against you. Those are the kings of the earth who have been deceived by Satan, and they are fornicating with the wild beast. You are also kings of the earth who have been taken out of that place, gathered out of that place into Jesus Christ's storehouse. You are at war with those kings. This really is the war of the great day of God the Almighty. Understand that it is you who Jehovah loves, and you are the warriors. Here we are now in Revelation chapter 17, and we'll talk a little more about this war. In Revelation chapter 17, it talks about a battle. And it says here that these will battle with the Lamb, because he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And so, which kings is he king of? He is your king, and you are kings of the earth, the sons of Zion, the sons of the living God, the sons of Jacob. And it shows here that the Lamb will conquer them. Jesus Christ will conquer those kings who have been deceived by Satan. that are held captive by Satan's truly unrighteous deception. But notice here, it says, also, those called and chosen and faithful with him will do so. If you watched my previous video, you should now understand that you've been called and chosen. Are you faithful? If so, you will be battling as a king with Jesus Christ against those other kings. So now I'm going to scroll up again, and notice here in verse 12, it says, and the 10 horns that you saw mean 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom. And so these kings were expecting to receive a kingdom. And that same expectation has been extended to you. You have been called and chosen to receive the kingdom that these 10 kings were supposed to receive. But look what they did. They do receive authority as kings 1 hour, for that one final hour, with the wild beast. These have one thought, and so they give their power and authority to the wild beast. To understand exactly who those specific 10 kings are, you need to go back into my YouTube channel and find a video about the 10 kings who give away their power, and you'll understand who they are. This is where it's important that you keep your lamps full and that you understand the intimate detail that has already been described behind this scripture. Something else that you'll need to understand is near the end of Revelation chapter 17. And remember, they gave away their kingdom for just 1 hour, that final hour that arrives upon the earth. And here, in the last 2 verses of chapter 17, this should be very relevant for your understanding this. It says, for God put it into their hearts to carry out his thought, even to carry out their one thought, by giving their kingdom to the wild beast, until the words of God will have been accomplished. When that hour is over, the words of God will have been accomplished. And the woman whom you saw means the great city that has a kingdom over the kings of the earth. And so that woman is the fornicating woman. She is not the bride. She is the harlot that is fornicating with Satan. These are the kings of the earth who have been gathered to the place called Armageddon. They have been left behind in that city, Babylon the Great. Those are the kings. the fornicating kings. Those are the kings who you will be warring and battling against with Jesus Christ on your side. So is it really you who has the work of bearing witness to Jesus Christ during that final hour? Who will go into battle against those 10 kings? Who will be waging war with the dragon? Remember what it said in John chapter 15. The Spirit of the truth which proceeds from the Father. Are you the ones who has this Spirit of the truth and will have the work of bearing witness to Jesus? It says, that one will bear witness about me, Jesus Christ. And so will it be you who is engaged in this battle? It says in verse 27, and you in turn are to bear witness. So is it really you? Remember what Jesus Christ said in chapter 16, which is simply a continuation of what he said in the previous chapter. He says, I have spoken these things to you that you may not be stumbled. You need to understand who you are. Do not be stumbled. It says, men will expel you from the synagogue. Yes, you have been disfellowshipped. An announcement was made in your own kingdom hall. Name of person is no longer a Jehovah's Witness. So I intend to continue with the sentiment that you in turn are to bear witness, and that the Spirit of the truth has now been put into your own mouth, and that you've been chosen, that you have been called or commissioned to bear this witness during the final hour of the last days, immediately before God's will has been accomplished. And it's you who will go into battle, who will be waging war against Satan, and it is you who will do away with the man of lawlessness by exposing Satan's truly unrighteous deception. So now I'd like to go to the book of Jeremiah and show you how words, powerful words, have been put into your own mouth, and that those words come from Jehovah. So let's go there. So here we are in Jeremiah chapter 1, and I am pretty sure that some of you who have watched my videos, especially the last one for Disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witnesses only, you may be a little concerned about what is expected of you in order to act and prevail effectively. And perhaps you're a little afraid of going to war against those same people who are persecuting you, reproaching you, and shunning you, and who've caused you all that weeping and grieving. And yet it was you who did not love their life. You took a stand for Jesus Christ at the consequence of losing your own family. It's you who had the courage to do this. And yet you may not feel completely able to go to war against Satan. And so in this chapter, in Jeremiah, there are some things that should give you an enormous amount of comfort. And notice here, Jeremiah says, "Here I actually do not know how to speak, but I am a boy." And Jehovah went on to say, "Do not say I am but a boy, but to all those whom I shall send you, you should go, and everything that I command you, you should speak. Do not be afraid because of their faces, for I am with you to deliver you." So it's understandable in your situation that you might be afraid to go back and have the work of witnessing to your own family who are persecuting you and shunning you and who've caused you so much grief, or to those brothers and sisters that you've left behind in the kingdom. But remember, it is you who Jehovah has affection for. It is you who Jehovah loves. And notice what he does. At that, Jehovah thrust out his hand and caused it to touch my mouth. Then Jehovah said to me, "Here I have put my words in your mouth." Do you see the connection to John chapter 15 and 16? That God's word would be delivered or declared to you through a helper. Here I have put my words in your mouth. So, has he chosen you? Let's go on to read verse 10. "See, I have commissioned you this day to be over the nations and over the kingdoms." Remember what it said in Revelation. Jesus Christ is Lord of Lords and King of Kings. King of which kings? You. And if he is King of Kings, and you are those kings of the earth, then you are the ones who will be kings of that kingdom. Not those 10 kings who gave away their power. It is now you who will be the kings of the kingdom, the sons of the living God. Why? In order to uproot and to pull down and to destroy and to tear down. This is where you will do away with the man of lawlessness. You'll battle with those 10 kings and tear down their kingdom. And what will you do after that? It will be you who builds and plants. You are the ones who will rebuild that kingdom. That kingdom now belongs to you. However, in order to expose Satan's unrighteous deception, you will have to uproot and pull down and destroy and tear down. And once that's complete, or even during the same time, you will be building and planting. Because there will be a 10th part. There will be people, your own brothers and sisters that you've left behind in the Kingdom Hall, who will understand the words that have been put into your mouth, and who will come back to you. And they will be your belongings with which you build the kingdom. You are that final kingdom that's mentioned in Daniel chapter 2 and verse 44. God will set up a kingdom that will never be brought to ruin. And that kingdom will destroy all the previous kingdoms. And so you are the builders of that kingdom that will never, ever be brought to ruin like the ones that have gone before. You are the ones who will destroy, tear down, uproot all those previous kingdoms. So I'd like to now bring your attention to what it says in verse 4. It says, "And the word of Jehovah began to occur to me, saying, Before I was forming you in the belly, I knew you, and before you proceeded to come forth from the womb, I sanctified you." And so you are one of these sons of the living God who Jehovah knew and selected from the beginning. So keep this in mind. Before I was forming you in the belly, I knew you, and before you proceeded to come forth from the womb, I sanctified you. In other words, He knew you before you were born again. Having said that, I'd like to now go back to Isaiah chapter 66, which I spoke about at great length in my previous video. And fortunately, that chapter is just above Jeremiah. And here we are in Isaiah chapter 66. And if we go to verse 5, you'll remember that it said, "Hear the word of Jehovah, you men who are trembling at his word. Your brothers that are hating you, that are excluding you by reason of my name." Name of person is no longer a Jehovah's Witness. So what brothers are hating you and excluding you by reason of God's actual name? It's those brothers that you've left behind in the kingdom hall. So remember what it said in Jeremiah, that He's known you and sanctified you while you were still in the womb? Let's scroll down a little in Isaiah chapter 66. And it says here, "Before she began to come into labor pains, she gave birth." And so is there any doubt that that verse in the first chapter of Jeremiah is about you? It says, before birth pangs could come to her, she even gave deliverance to a male child. And it says here in verse 8, "For Zion has come into labor pains, as well as given birth to her sons." The sons of Zion have been born. We'll go back to Jeremiah chapter 1.
It says in verse 5, before I was forming you in the belly, I knew you. Before you proceeded to come forth from the womb, I sanctified you. So is there any doubt in your mind that Jeremiah chapter 1 is talking about the very same situation in Isaiah chapter 66? And so this is true about you also. Here I have put my words in your mouth, and I have commissioned you this day to be over the nations and over the kingdoms. And remember what it is that you're expected to do with those words that Jehovah has put into your mouth. It's in order to uproot and pull down and to destroy and to tear down. So let's go back up again, once again, to Isaiah chapter 66 and see what it says Jehovah would do immediately after those brothers are excluded by reason of his name. So here we'll go to verse 6, and it says, there is a sound of uproar out of the city, or the kingdom, a sound out of the temple. That's the temple that has been profaned by a man of lawlessness. It is the sound of Jehovah repaying what is deserved to his enemies. The man of lawlessness will be done away with. There will be a war against those 10 kings who gave away their kingdom to the wild beast. The sound of Jehovah repaying what is deserved to his enemies. The war of the great day of God the Almighty. You are intimately involved in this battle. And you are battling with the King of Kings, Jesus Christ. What kings is Jesus Christ king of? You. So, do you see? Do you understand what's happening to you? Let's see what else it says in Isaiah chapter 66. It says, and you will certainly see, and your heart will be bound to exult, and your very bones will sprout, just like tender grass. And the hand of Jehovah will certainly be made known to his servants. So, is the hand of Jehovah being made known to you? But he will actually denounce his enemies. He will do away with the man of lawlessness, and he will eventually be brought to nothing. For here Jehovah himself comes as a very fire, and his chariots are like a storm wind, in order to pay back his anger with sheer rage, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For as fire, Jehovah himself will for a fact take up the controversy with his sword. So I'd like you to keep this in mind, that Jehovah will come as a very fire. His rebuke will be with flames of fire.
and that this is the war of the great day of God the Almighty. So remember this, that he comes as a very fire. And also remember in Luke chapter 12, where Jesus Christ said, I came to start a fire on the earth. And now what I'd like to do is go further into the book of Jeremiah and show you once again where God's words are being put into your mouth. Remember the fire. So here we are now in Jeremiah chapter 5, and I'll read verse 14 and see the similarities to John chapter 15 and 16. It says here, therefore this is what Jehovah, the God of armies, has said. For the reason that you men are saying this thing, here I am making my words in your mouth a fire, and this people will be pieces of wood, and it will certainly devour them. So, do you see the similarities? In John chapter 16, Jesus Christ said that he would send a helper who would speak the things that he heard from Jesus Christ. And if you are hearing those things, then those words are now also in your mouth. You in turn are to witness. Those words are in your mouth. Those words are the fire that will devour or bring to shame and humiliate the people who hear the spirit of the truth. And so, understanding this, I'd like to take you back to Luke chapter 12, a scripture I started my first video with, and remind you about this fire. Remember what it said in Jeremiah. I will put my words in your mouth, and it will be a fire. And here in Luke chapter 12, verse 49, what did Jesus Christ say he was wishing would happen? He said, I came to start a fire on the earth, and what more is there for me to wish if it has already been lighted? And so, if those words are now in your mouth, that fire has been lighted. And what will it do? It will cause divisions. And those divisions will separate fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, daughter-in-laws, mother-in-laws. And so your words will have a huge effect. You will either devour those people with your words in your own mouth, words that are like a fire, or you could replant and rebuild. You will save some of these people, those people that you've left behind in your kingdom home. And so now I'd like to go to Matthew chapter 3 once again and show you what that fire will do. So here we are in Matthew chapter 3, and I'd like to remind you what John the Baptist said about Jesus Christ. And here we are in verse 12. He says, his winnowing shovel is in his hand, and he will completely clean up his threshing floor, and will gather his wheat into the storehouse. But the chaff
he will burn up with fire that cannot be put out. So, in regard to all those other scriptures that I've just shown you, what do you think that fire is? That fire is the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth, the Spirit of the truth. And those truths have been put into your own mouths. You are the ones who have been commissioned. You are the ones who are anointed. You are the ones who've been chosen to do the work of witnessing to Jesus Christ in the final hour and expose Satan's truly unrighteous deception. So now I've jumped back again to Luke chapter 12, where it says, I came to start a fire on the earth. And I'd like to bring to your attention that if it is you who has been commissioned, if you are the ones who are chosen and anointed to do this work, then who really is the faithful steward, the discreet one, who his master will appoint over his body of attendants to give them their measure of food supplies at the proper time? And if Jesus Christ is to appear with rejoicing on your part, will you be rejoicing if you do these things? Happy is that slave if his master, on arriving, finds him doing so. I tell you truthfully, he will appoint him over all his belongings. And so, will Jesus Christ appear with rejoicing on your part? He most definitely will, if you use the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth to bring the man of lawlessness to nothing. And in doing that, you should obtain some belongings. And who are those belongings? Those belongings are your fathers, sons, mothers, daughters, mother-in-laws, daughter-in-laws. Do you understand? Those are your belongings. The ones who believe what you say and who you help to see the truly unrighteous deception that they are held captive by in these last days. So here we are now back in 2 Thessalonians in chapter 2, where the Apostle Paul talks about the man of lawlessness and how that same man of lawlessness is to be done away with by the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth. And by now, you should be understanding what that Spirit of his mouth really is. And you should be now prepared to bear witness to Jesus Christ through that Spirit of his mouth. But there might be some of you who are wondering, is it really me, a disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness, who is expected to do this? Well, if you watched my last video, you should already understand that Jesus Christ really did come as a thief, and that you have been gathered into his storehouse, the wheat has been gathered into the storehouse. Now, immediately after the Apostle Paul described the man of lawlessness, he then gave some clues as to who it would be that would do away with this man of lawlessness. And if I go to verse 13 on the right here, you'll see what the Apostle Paul says after describing that truly unrighteous deception that Satan is perpetrating on Jesus Christ's kingdom. It says, however, we are obligated to thank God always for you, brothers loved by Jehovah, because God selected you from the beginning for salvation by sanctifying you with Spirit and by your faith in the truth. And so you've already demonstrated your faith in this truth by taking a stand for Jesus Christ at the expense of losing your own family, at the expense of losing your life. But notice also here it says that he has sanctified you. And remember what it said in Jeremiah, that you were sanctified while still in the womb. He selected you from the beginning. And now you are born. You are those sons of Zion who have been born. But is it really a disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness who has been sanctified in the womb prior to their birth? Well, remember what it says here, what the Apostle Paul said. However, we are obligated to thank God always for you. And notice what it says, brothers loved by Jehovah. So are you the brothers loved by Jehovah, who has been selected or commissioned to do away with the man of lawlessness by the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth and expose Satan's truly unrighteous deception for those who are perishing? And who are those who are perishing, who are held captive by Satan's unrighteous deception? They are your fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, mother-in-laws, daughter-in-laws, who continue to be held captive by Satan's truly unrighteous deception. The lawless one's presence is according to the operation of Satan. They are inside the synagogue of Satan. And so now let's prove that you really are the ones that the Apostle Paul is thanking, because you are brothers loved by Jehovah. And to do that, we'll go back to Romans chapter 9, where the Apostle Paul describes the situation of those brothers loved by Jehovah. So here we are in Romans chapter 9. And in verse 25, it says, "It is as he says also in Hosea, those not my people." Name of person is no longer a Jehovah's Witness. Those not my people. I will call my people, and her who is not beloved, beloved. And so who are the brothers loved by Jehovah? Let's continue to verse 26. And in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, there they will be called sons of the living God. And so in what place was it said to you, you are not my people? It was said to you in the kingdom hall. It was said to you in front of all those people that you've left behind. You are not my people. Name of person is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. You are the ones that Jehovah loves. You are the ones that the Apostle Paul is thanking immediately after describing the man of lawlessness and how that same man of lawlessness will be brought to nothing by the Spirit of the truth, the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth. And so if you are the ones that are chosen, if you are the ones that have been commissioned, that are anointed, what is it you are supposed to do? This time I'd like to take you to Isaiah chapter 61 and help you understand. So here we are in Isaiah chapter 61. And remember that it was you who was sanctified by the Spirit while still in the womb, prior to you being born. And so you may not have realized this because Jesus Christ really did come like a thief. But now that you know, your weeping should now be turning into joy. So what should you do now with this Spirit, with the Spirit of the truth, that the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth that is now upon you, that those words that have been put in your mouth? So let's read Isaiah chapter 61. And it says here, the Spirit of the sovereign Lord Jehovah is upon you, for the reason that Jehovah has anointed you. He has commissioned you to tell good news to the meek ones. And who are the meek ones that you will tell us good news to? They're the ones that you've left behind in the kingdom hall, who will actually listen to you and understand that they are being held captive by Satan's truly unrighteous deception. The meek ones will hear this absolutely amazing good news of the kingdom that will never be brought to ruin. He has sent you to bind up the broken-hearted, to proclaim liberty to those taken captive. And what are they held captive by? They are held captive to Satan's unrighteous deception, the operation of Satan, and the wide opening of the eyes even to the prisoners. When those meek ones hear the Spirit of the truth that has been put in your mouth, it will open their eyes and they will be emancipated. They will no longer be prisoners to Satan's deception. To proclaim the year of goodwill on the part of Jehovah. And so yes, this is goodwill that's being extended to people who have been allowed themselves to be deceived by Satan. And so this is a mercy. It is goodwill being extended by God to those people who have been deceived in the same way that Eve herself was deceived in the Garden of Eden.
by Satan, but also to proclaim the day of vengeance on the part of our God, because there will be a tearing down and a destroying of all those kingdoms that preceded this one. And you're to comfort all the mourning ones, to assign to those mourning over Zion, to give them a headdress instead of ashes, the oil of exaltation instead of mourning, the mantle of praise instead of the downhearted spirit. And they must be called big trees of righteousness, the planting of Jehovah, for him to be beautified. And so if you think back to your previous condition where you were weeping and grieving over the terrible condition of your life after having been disfellowshipped and being shunned by your own family, with the brothers that you've left behind in your kingdom hall who are lyingly saying wicked things about you. Indeed, you had a downhearted spirit, but now your weeping and your grief should be turned into joy, the oil of exaltation. But remember what it said in Jeremiah? Not only will you tear down and destroy, you're also going to rebuild the long-standing, devastated places. And you will raise up the desolated places of former times, and they will certainly make anew the devastated cities, the places desolated for generation after generation. So, do you understand the work that you need to do in order to prevail and act effectively? It is an amazing work that results in incredible blessings. You are assisting God to set up a kingdom that will never be brought to ruin, and that will destroy all those kingdoms that preceded it. So now, while I'm in Isaiah chapter 61, we should go back to Isaiah chapter 60 immediately before it, and I'll show you some things that should now be very relevant to your situation. So here it says in verse 15 of chapter 60, it says, instead of your proving to be one left entirely and hated. And so, does that not describe your situation? The one who is being disfellowshipped and hated by his own brothers, with nobody passing through. I will even set you as a thing of pride to time indefinite, and exaltation for generation after generation. You are part of the kings of the kingdom that will never be brought to ruin. And so instead of being hated and having your own family persecute you and shun you and lyingly say wicked things about you, being left entirely alone by your own brothers and sisters, it is you who are being set up as a thing of pride to time indefinite. And remember that it is those brothers and sisters who you've left behind in the kingdom hall who have been held captive by Satan's unrighteous deception.
Well, let's go up to verse 14. And it says there, and to you, the sons of those afflicting you must go bowing down. And so who is it that is afflicting you and hating you and lyingly saying wicked things about you? It's those brothers and sisters that you've left behind in the kingdom hall. And remember what it said in Romans chapter 9, verse 26? It says, in the place where it said to them, you are not my people, name of person is no longer a Jehovah's Witness. And so what place is that? The kingdom hall. In the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, there, in that same place, they will be called sons of the living God. So does this verse now make sense to you? And to you, the sons of those afflicting you must go bowing down, and all of those who have been treating you disrespectfully must bend down at the very soles of your feet. And they will have to call you the city of Jehovah. You understand now that it is you who are this kingdom. You are the sons of Zion. They will have to call you the city of Jehovah, Zion of the Holy One of Israel. And do you see how your weeping and grieving will be turned around and changed into joy? So here it says, and to you the sons of those afflicting you must go bowing down, and all those treating you disrespectfully must bend down at the very soles of your feet. So now I'm going to go to the book of Revelation and show you something very similar in regard to those who are held captive by Satan's unrighteous deception. So here we are in Revelation chapter 3, and I'll read verse 9. See the connection to what it said in Isaiah chapter 60. It says, look, I will give those from the synagogue of Satan who say they are Jews, and yet they are not, but are lying. Look, I will make them come and do obeisance before your feet, and make them know I have loved you. Remember what it said in Romans chapter 9? Her who was not beloved, I will call beloved. He will make them know that it was you who he really loved. You are the brothers loved by Jehovah. So here in Revelation chapter 3, there's something else that perhaps you should come to realize. If those from the synagogue of Satan who say they are Jews and yet they are not but are lying, look, I will make them come and do obeisance before your feet and make them know I have loved you, then those who come before your feet to do obeisance belong to you. They are your belongings. They are the domestics to who you need to give food at the proper time. The meek ones will understand, and they will have an enormous benefit through the work that you do witnessing to Jesus in the time of the end, exposing Satan's unrighteous deception, exposing the operation of Satan. So, do you understand who those belongings are? Who your domestics are? They are, in fact, members of your own family. So calling them domestics is a righteous thing to do. But not only are they members of your own fleshly relatives, there's also those brothers and sisters who you've left behind in the kingdom hall, those spiritual brothers and sisters. Are you getting the sense of these things? So if you are a Disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness, you are one of the sons of Jacob, one of the sons of the living God, one of the sons of Zion, then here we are now in Malachi chapter 3, and these words are intended for you. And I'll show you that Malachi chapter 3 are some very special words that were written a long time ago for Disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness. And here in verse 6, it says, "For I am Jehovah, I have not changed, and you are sons of Jacob, and you have not come to your finish." So hopefully by now you understand who you are, and that you are indeed those sons of Jacob that are spoken of quite often throughout the Bible. And these words in Malachi are words that you should definitely take time to read and understand. Notice in the first verse of chapter 3, it says, "Look, I am sending my messenger, and he must clear up a way before me. And suddenly there will come to his temple the true Lord, whom you people are seeking, and the messenger of the covenant in whom you are delighting. Look, he will certainly come, Jehovah has said." And so here, this is talking about Jesus Christ. And as a Disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness who still reads the Bible and believes and loves in Jesus Christ, this is most definitely talking about you. But look what Malachi asks in verse 2. "But who will be putting up with the day of his coming?" So remember, Jesus Christ said that he would come like a thief. But on the other hand, the scriptures also say that he would appear with rejoicing on your part. So who will be putting up with the day of his coming? And who will be the one standing when he appears? So remember in Isaiah chapter 66, your brothers who are hating you, who are excluding you by reason of Jehovah's name of person is no longer a Jehovah's Witness. Who is it that will be the one who rejoices when he appears? So notice throughout the rest of this chapter, Jehovah speaks against those who are acting fraudulently with widows and fatherless boys and turning away alien residents. And here he says, you are sons of Jacob, and you have not yet come to your finish. So if you are the ones who have been weeping and grieving because of the terrible conditions in your life, having been disfellowshipped and shunned by your own family, your brothers and sisters, mothers, fathers, daughters won't talk to you, here Jehovah is giving you comfort that you have not come to your finish. And he asks this question, return to me and I will return to you, Jehovah of armies has said. And in what way shall we return? And notice here in verse 8, he explains, in the 10th parts and in the contributions. With the curse you are cursing me, and me you are robbing the nation in its entirety. And now, this is what he asks you to do. Bring all the 10th parts into the storehouse, that they may come to be food in my house. Remember that question that Jesus Christ asked? Who is the faithful and discreet slave? Who gives his domestics food at the proper time? So if you see that connection, then we should ask the question, what are these 10th parts and where is this storehouse? But notice this blessing that Jehovah extends to those sons of Jacob, to you. He says, and test me out, please, in this respect, Jehovah of armies has said, whether I shall not open to you people, to the sons of Jacob in those 10th parts, the floodgates of the heavens, and actually empty out upon you a blessing until there is no more want. Isn't that the kind of blessing that you would like, that you don't presently have? You've been weeping and grieving, and yet, hopefully by now, your grief is starting to turn into joy, especially when you see the things that are coming, the things in front of you, those blessings. He goes on to say, and I will rebuke for you the devouring one, and it will not ruin for you the fruit of the ground, nor will the vine in the field prove fruitless for you, Jehovah of armies has said. And all the nations will have to pronounce you happy, for you yourselves will become a land of delight, Jehovah of armies has said. So, as one of those sons of Jacob, you should be asking the question, what are all these 10th parts that I should bring into my storehouse? And I suspect you already know the answer to that question. So if we go now back to Matthew chapter 3, and carefully read again what John the Baptist said, this should start to make sense. So remember this, bring all the 10th parts into the storehouse, that there may come to be food in my house. So here we are now, back in Matthew chapter 3, reading what John the Baptist said. And he spoke about Jesus Christ. That one will baptize you people with Holy Spirit and with fire. His winnowing shovel is in his hand, and he will completely clean up his threshing floor and will gather his wheat into the what? The storehouse. And so where is that place that Jehovah is asking the sons of Jacob to bring the 10th part? He wants the sons of Jacob to bring a 10th part into that same storehouse. Your belongings will be in the same place as you. So, are you beginning to understand where that storehouse is? He wants that 10th part taken along. He does not want them abandoned with the chaff that he will burn up with fire that cannot be put out. So I've jumped back to Isaiah chapter 6, and we'll read about the 10th part again. And I'll start in verse 11. At this I said, how long, O Jehovah? Then he said, until the cities actually crash in ruins, to be without an inhabitant, and the houses be without earthling man, and the ground itself is ruined into desolation. And Jehovah actually removes earthling men far away, and the deserted condition does become very extensive in the midst of the land. And now listen carefully to this next part. And there will still be in it a tenth part. So remember what Isaiah was told in chapter 6, that a 10th part would remain. And here we are, jumped ahead to Revelation chapter 11, which talks about the two witnesses. And in verse 13 it says, and in that hour, remember in John chapter 16 it spoke about an hour that would arrive, an hour when men would expel you from the synagogue. Here it says, and in that hour a great earthquake occurred, and a tenth of the city fell, and 7,000 names of men were killed by the earthquake. And the rest became frightened and gave glory to the God of heaven. So notice here it also mentions a tenth of the city. And in Isaiah it says that a tenth would remain. And in Malachi, the expectation is that the sons of Jacob, the sons of Zion, the sons of the living God, those brothers who Jehovah loves, will bring that 10th part into the storehouse. Notice next it says, the second woe is past. Look, the third woe is coming quickly. And if we scroll to the end of Revelation chapter 11, it says, the appointed time for the dead to be judged and to give their reward to your slaves the prophets, and to the holy ones, and to those fearing your name, the small and the great. And so this is when he appears with rejoicing on your part. And so what is that third woe that that the earth should be expecting? It gives some implication about that third woe that's coming. It says, and to bring to ruin those ruining the earth. And remember what Isaiah was told in chapter 6, that there would not be an earthling man living in any house, that earthling men would be taken far away, and only a 10th part would be remaining. And so here in verse 19 it says, and the temple sanctuary of God that is in heaven was opened, and the ark of his covenant was seen in his temple sanctuary. He will appear with rejoicing on your part. So, are you beginning to understand what's expected of you, the sons of Jacob, the sons of Zion, the sons of the living God, those who were told
that you are not my people. Name of person is no longer a Jehovah's Witness. And so you need to obtain that blessing, that reward. The reward to your slaves, the prophets, and to the holy ones, and to those fearing your name. But remember, there's an expectation that you will bring that 10th part into the storehouse. So here we are. I've jumped back to Malachi chapter 3, and I'm certain as a disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness, Bible-believing disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness who loves Jesus Christ, you who has been weeping and grieving about the terrible condition of your life, you may be able to empathize with or sympathize with what is being said here in verse 14 of Malachi chapter 3. You have said it is of no value to serve God. And what profit is there in that we have kept the obligation to him, and that we have walked dejectedly on account of Jehovah of armies, and at present we are pronouncing presumptuous people happy. Also the doers of wickedness have been built up, and also they have tested God out and kept getting away. And so as a disfellowship ex-Jehovah's Witness, I can definitely feel some sympathy for what is being said here, because I've lived this condition where, yes, I love reading the Bible, I love Jesus Christ, and here I am being disfellowshipped and I'm being treated with disrespect, I'm being reproached, and the brothers and sisters that I've left behind in the Kingdom Hall are lyingly saying wicked things about me. And so, yes, I have walked dejectedly on account of Jehovah of armies. And I can see how the presumptuous people are happy. Remember what it says, or what Jesus Christ said in John chapter 16? You will weep and grieve, and the world will rejoice. So you are the ones walking about dejectedly, and the world is rejoicing. The presumptuous people are happy. The people, the doers of wickedness, are the ones being built up. You are weeping, and you will weep and grieve, and the earth will rejoice. It also says something similar in Revelation chapter 11. Those dwelling on the earth will send gifts to one another and rejoice, enjoy themselves. So now, if you've reached this point in your life where you know who you are, that you're one of those sons of Jacob, and you have a good understanding of what's expected of you and the enormous blessings that are coming your way, then yeah, perhaps it's a good time to talk about these things. But remember, at that time those in fear of Jehovah spoke with one another, each one with his companion. And Jehovah kept paying attention, and a book of remembrance began to be written up before him for those in fear of Jehovah and for those thinking upon his name. So if you are one of those sons of Jacob who are now rejoicing because you have that expectation to be happy, because you know that he will appear with rejoicing on your part, then yes, that creates an enormous controversy that I suspect many disfellowshipped ex-Jehovah's Witnesses will talk about with other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And if you are one of those in fear of God's name and you do attempt to bring those 10th parts into the storehouse,
then Jehovah will achieve his will. What will happen? And they will certainly become mine, Jehovah of armies has said, at the day when I am producing a special property. He's gathering the wheat into the storehouse, the sons of Jacob, and those sons of Jacob, you are expected to bring a 10th part, a special property, into that same storehouse. And he goes on to say, and I will show compassion upon them, just as a man shows compassion upon his son who is serving him. And as one of the sons of Jacob, you will be expected to judge. You people will certainly see the distinction between a righteous and a wicked one, between one serving God and one who has not served him. So which kind do you want to be? One who has served God and brought the 10th part into the storehouse? Or one who has not served God? So now what I'd like to do is go right to the end of Malachi chapter 4 and carefully examine what verse 5 and 6 says. So let's read this. It says, look, I am sending to you people Elijah, the prophet, before the coming and the great and fearing, this inspiring day of Jehovah. And what does Jehovah expect to happen? And he must turn the heart of fathers back toward sons, and the heart of sons back toward fathers, in order that I may not come and actually strike the earth with a devoting of it to destruction. So keep this in mind. Remember, the audience of this book of Malachi are the sons of Jacob. And here it says that Jehovah expects the heart of fathers to be turned back towards their sons, and the heart of sons to be turned back towards their fathers. And who's going to do this? You are. So keep this in mind, and we'll go back to Luke chapter 12 and see what Jesus Christ said would happen when he lit the fire. So remember that the sons' hearts need to be turned back to fathers, and the fathers' hearts need to be turned back to their sons. So here we are in Luke chapter 12, and this is where Jesus Christ was wishing for that fire to be lit. And that fire are words that he will put in your mouth. And you'll see in verse 52, Jesus Christ says that from now on there will be 5 in one house divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. There will be father against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against her mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And so remember what it said in Malachi chapter 4. The heart of sons need to be turned towards their father, and the heart of fathers to be turned towards their sons. And when this happens, those are the 10th parts that will be brought into the storehouse. This condition where a father might be shunning a son who is disfellowshipped will be turned around, because that father's son will have the work of witnessing to Jesus Christ, and that witness will have an effect on his father, and his father will see the truth and turn his heart towards his son and understand that it is his son who is one of those sons of the living God, who is loved by Jehovah, who is one of those who it was said, "You are not my people." And the reverse condition also happens, that there might be a son who is shunning his father because his father has been disfellowshipped when he took a stand for Jesus Christ. And it's his father who is now one of those sons of Jacob, the sons of the living God. And that father will witness to his son, and the son will come to realize that it's the truth and turn his heart back towards his father. And remember what it said in Revelation, that Jesus Christ said that he would have those from the synagogue of Satan do obeisance before your feet and know that it was you who he loved. And so you will play a part in bringing that 10th part into the storehouse. They will become your belongings. So maybe the thought of this frightens you a little bit because you've been persecuted by your own family and those people that you've left behind in the kingdom hall, and they're loudly saying wicked things about you. And perhaps you're afraid and bitter, and you have very good reason to be. But now that you know the truth and who you are, will you be a weak person and treat your family and those that you've left behind in your kingdom hall with contempt? Or will you treat them with love, understanding that they are being held captive by Satan's truly unrighteous deception? Will you let that condition continue, or will you do something about it? Will you have the work of witnessing to Jesus, and will you bring those 10th parts into the storehouse, your belongings? Will you give them food at the proper time? And do you think this is the proper time? Well, let's scroll down. In verse 56 and see what Jesus Christ went on to say. He said, "Hypocrites, you know how to examine the outward appearance of earth and sky, but how is it you do not know how to examine this particular time?" So what is it that's so important about this particular time? If you watched my first video for Disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witnesses only, then you know that this is that particular time. This is the right time, the proper time to give food to your domestics. Who are your domestics? They're the people in your own house and those that you've left behind in the kingdom hall. So here I am now in Matthew chapter 13. And if you are one of those disfellowshipped ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who is getting the sense of these things, then what's expected of you? So I'm going to read here in verse 23 of Matthew chapter 13 what Jesus Christ said. "As for the one sown upon fine soil, this is the one hearing the word and getting the sense of it, who really does bear fruit and produces. This one 100-fold, that one 60, the other 30. And so, are you getting the sense of these things? And if you're to bring a 10th part into the storehouse, do you understand that these ones, or this one who brought in 30, if that's a 10th part, then he needed to do the work of witnessing to Jesus to 300 people in order to obtain that 30, because a 10th part means that 1 in 10 will get the sense of it. They will get the sense of the word of your witnessing. And so the large majority, the remaining 9th part that you've left behind in the kingdom hall, they will not get the sense of it. And remember what Isaiah was told in chapter 6 about a 10th part remaining? It's in this chapter that Jesus Christ quotes Isaiah chapter 6. And it says here, and toward them, the prophecy of Isaiah, that one we read about in chapter 6, where a 10th part will remain, is having fulfillment, which says, by hearing you will hear, but by no means get the sense of it, and looking you will look, but by no means see. For the heart of this people has grown unreceptive, and with their ears they have heard without response, and they have shut their eyes, that they may never see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and get the sense of it, and with their hearts, and turn back, and I heal them. So they are to get the sense of it with their hearts and turn back, and Jesus Christ will heal them. And remember what it said in Malachi? That fathers must turn their hearts back towards sons, and sons must turn their hearts back towards fathers. And those will be the ones who do get the sense of it and bear fruit and produce. This one 100, that one 60, the other 30. Do you get the sense of it? So, if you are getting the sense of it, you are one of those disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witnesses, and you understand that you are one of the sons of Zion who's been born again, and that you're a son of Jacob, then to you it is granted to understand the sacred secrets of the kingdom of the heavens. But to those people it is not granted. For whoever has more will be given him, and he will be made to abound. But whoever does not have, even what he has, will be taken from him. So, as a disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness, are you still weeping and grieving? Or is your heart starting to rejoice? And will you abound? And do you get the sense of it? And will you bear fruit? 100, perhaps 60, perhaps 30. Think of all those people held captive by Satan's unrighteous deception. All those people that you've left behind in the kingdom hall while you have been gathered into Jesus Christ's storehouse. What will you now do? I'm certain that if you were a man who had the cure for cancer, that you wouldn't keep quiet and let millions of people die. You'd say something so that those same millions could have the same cure and that they'd live. You're in the same position. You know the cure. You understand the sacred secrets. Will you help all those that you've left behind get the sense of it so that they won't perish? Like the Apostle Paul said in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, that those people who are held captive by Satan's truly unrighteous deception, that those people are the ones who would perish? Or will you save them? Will you bear fruit? and produce? Will you bring them into the same storehouse?
So now that you know who you are, that you are the sons of the living God, and you're not just a weeping and grieving disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness who's bitter over the condition of his life, how do you feel? Do you feel helpless, or do you feel powerful now that you get the sense of these things? I'd like to take you to I'd like to take you to Micah chapter 3, and I'll show you how you should feel, having been one of those sons of Jacob who's been gathered into the storehouse and understands these sacred secrets. So this is how you should feel. And I'll read verse 8 of Micah chapter 3. And on the other hand, I myself have become full of power with the Spirit of Jehovah, having had words put in your mouth, his words put in your mouth like a fire. You should now be full of power with the Spirit of Jehovah and of justice and mightiness, in order to tell to Jacob his revolt and to Israel his sin. And so it's you who will expose the man of lawlessness, the man of sin, and expose Satan's unrighteous deception and show them how they have been made to sin by Satan himself, according to the operation of Satan. You should now have become full of power with the Spirit of Jehovah and with justice and mightiness. And it's through you that he will certainly render judgment among many peoples and set matters straight respecting mighty nations far away, and they will have to beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning shears. You are the sons of Zion. And I'll go to the top here to chapter 4 of Micah, and it says here, and it must occur in the final part of the days that the mountain of the house of Jehovah will become firmly established above the top of the mountains, and it will certainly be lifted up above the hills, and to it people must stream. So you are those sons of Jacob to whom those people will go to. And many nations will certainly go and say, come, you people, and let us go up to the mountain of Jehovah and to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will instruct us about his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion law will go forth, and the word of Jehovah out of Jerusalem. And so, do you suspect that perhaps this is not talking about you? If that's the case, you should go back to Romans chapter 9 and see what the Apostle Paul had to say about you and how you will have an intimate role in these things happening. And here it is in Romans chapter 9 where the Apostle Paul says, I am telling the truth in Christ, I am not lying, since my conscience bears witness with me in Holy Spirit that I have great grief and unceasing pain in my heart. And look what the Apostle Paul wishes he was. For I could wish that I myself were separated as the cursed one from the Christ in behalf of my brothers, And so it is you who your brothers hate, and who have excluded you by reason of God's name. It is you who are the cursed one, who has been separated off from the Christ in behalf of your own brothers and your relatives according to the flesh, who are now shunning you and lyingly saying wicked things about you. Yes, your own relatives. The Apostle Paul wishes that he was you, that he was the one separated as the cursed one from the Christ, whose name had been killed. Name of person is no longer a Jehovah's Witness. You are not my people. And what does the Apostle Paul say about those who are separated as the cursed one from the Christ? He says, who as such are Israelites, to whom belong the adoption as sons, and the glory, and the covenants, and the giving of the law, and the sacred service, and the promises, to whom the forefathers belong, and from whom the Christ sprang according to the flesh. God, who is over all, be blessed forever. And so you are the sons of the living God. And it is you who are a part of this covenant, and it is you who gives the law and the sacred service, and the promises are to you. And so in Malachi chapter 4, where people must stream to Zion and hear the law going forth, it is you who will give that law. You are the ones who will set matters straight for the nations. You are the powerful ones. You are the ones who are powerful with Jehovah's Spirit. His words have been put in your mouth. You are the mighty ones. So there is nothing you should be afraid of. And in bringing that 10th part into the storehouse, if the 9th part continues to lyingly say wicked things about you, you understand what the end is for them. There is no need for you to be afraid of any kind of reproach from those people, because to you it is granted to understand those sacred secrets of the kingdom. You do get the sense of these things, and that other 9th part do not. And so you have absolutely nothing to be afraid of. So then, what particular time is this time? I'm going to scroll up and read a verse from Romans chapter 8, and you'll see that this is the time that Jesus Christ was looking forward to, the time that he was wishing would happen. And here in Romans chapter 8, verse 20, it says, verse 19, it says, for the eager expectation of the creation is waiting for the revealing of the sons of God. And so now is that time. The sons of God are being revealed. Are you one of them? If so, let's go to Isaiah chapter 52 and see what it says there. So here we are in Isaiah chapter 52, and it says, wake up, put on your strength, O Zion, put on your beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city, for no more will there come again into you the uncircumcised and unclean one. Shake yourself free from the dust,
Rise up. Take a seat, O Jerusalem. Loosen for yourself the bands on your neck, O captive daughter of Zion. And so here, this scripture is talking directly to you, the ones weeping and grieving over the terrible condition of your life simply because you took a stand for Jesus Christ and now your family shuns you. So after watching these videos, are you awake? And are you now putting on your strength? Are you now one of those powerful ones? And have you loosened for yourself the bands on your neck because you get the sense of these things? And do you understand that you are no longer a captive? So wake up, put on your strength, O Zion, put on your beautiful garments. Remember these words, and I'll now go to the book of Revelation. So here we are in Revelation chapter 16. And so now if you have watched my previous videos, the one called Jehovah's Witnesses, When is Armageddon, and also the one for Disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witnesses only, you should be awake. And notice what it says in Revelation chapter 16 and verse 15, where Jesus Christ talks about those who are gathered to the place that is called Armageddon. He says, "Look, I am coming as a thief." And if you've watched that video for Disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witnesses only, you should now know exactly how Jesus Christ came as a thief and gathered you together, gathered you into the storehouse. It says, "Happy is the one that stays awake and keeps his outer garments." Remember what it said in Isaiah chapter 52? Put on your beautiful garments. Wake up, that he may not walk naked and people look upon his shamefulness. And so these instructions are to the kings of the earth, the kings who have not been gathered to the place called Armageddon. Instead, they've been gathered into the storehouse. You have not been deceived by the expressions inspired by demons that are designed to go forth to the kings of the entire inhabited earth to gather them together to the war of the great day of God the Almighty. You are one of the kings of the entire inhabited earth who is happy and awake. So now here we are back in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 to discuss the man of lawlessness. And remember, I started this video talking about how the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth, or through the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth, the man of lawlessness will be done away with. And notice here in verse 2, the Apostle Paul is telling people not to be quickly shaken from your reason, nor to be excited either through an inspired expression or through a verbal message. And so, can you think of anyone who was excited through an inspired expression? Perhaps excited through this expression and made to believe that Jesus Christ had already appointed his faithful and discreet slave over his domestics? Can you think of any unclean, inspired expression that may have excited people? We're going to get to that. Remember that the lawless one's presence is according to the operation of Satan, with every powerful work and lying signs, unclean, inspired expressions coming from the dragon's mouth. And with every unrighteous deception for those who are perishing as a retribution because they did not accept the love of the truth that they might be saved. And yet you loved the truth so much that you took a stand for Jesus Christ, even at the expense of your own family, even at the expense of your domestics. So let's examine this man of lawlessness, and if you really wanted to know in detail, I strongly suggest that you watch the video called Jehovah's Witnesses Desolated in order to understand in intimate detail what's happening in regard to the man of lawlessness and how he has been revealed. So here I'll just give you a short witness that you also could use in turn to witness to your fathers, mothers, brothers, daughters, sisters. And so what I'd like to bring to your attention here is where it says, and so now you know the thing that acts as a restraint with a view to his being revealed, and here it's talking about the man of lawlessness, in his own due time. So there's a special time where the man of lawlessness will be revealed. And notice that it's not a him that's acting as a restraint. It's a thing acting as a restraint. So what is the thing acting as a restraint? So now I'd like to explain to you how that thing acting as a restraint is now out of the way. But notice in this verse, verse 7, it talks about a he rather than a thing. So what is it? Is it a thing acting as a restraint, or is it a he? Listen very carefully and you'll soon see that it's a thing acting as a restraint that eventually gets to be out of the way. So let's go up to where Jesus or the Apostle Paul says, that is why God lets this operation of error go to them, that they may get to believing the lie. Notice carefully here, it does not say a lie. It says the lie, which suggests that this is a well-known lie, a very specific lie that everyone should know. So what lie do Jehovah's Witnesses believe? Listen carefully. Millions now living will never die. And so that expression was stated worldwide in magazines and publications of Jehovah's Witnesses in the year 1919. And so, are those millions now dead? Yes, they are. So, was that expression a lie? Yes, it was. We are now in the year 2015. there should be no doubt in anyone's mind that that expression, millions now living will never die, there should be no doubt that that is a lie. But is it the lie? Well, consider this, what Satan said. You positively will not die. And the man of lawlessness is according to the operation of Satan. So how does Satan operate? He gets people to believe the lie. You positively will not die. Millions now living will never die. So do you see why this is not just a lie? It is the lie. And Jehovah's Witnesses to this day still believe the lie. And it goes on to say, in order that they all may be judged, because they did not believe the truth. So what's the truth? All those millions are now dead. And that is the truth. But these Jehovah's Witnesses believe the lie. And they take pleasure in unrighteousness, in things that are false, expressions that are unclean, inspired expressions, inspired according to the operation of Satan, inspired by the dragon. So, what is the thing that acts as a restraint? So, do you now know the thing that acts as a restraint? If I had tried to prove this in 1950 or even 1960, perhaps in 1970, 1990, I would have had great difficulty, because there may have been a few of those millions living in 1919 who were still alive. But we are now in the year 2015. Is there any doubt in your mind that not only was that a lie, but it was the lie? And so the thing acting as a restraint is now out of the way. And so what was the thing that acts as a restraint? Time. It's subtly implicated right in verse 6 of 2 Thessalonians. In his own due time. There should be no doubt now that it's the year 2015 that that was a lie. But I would have had great difficulty proving that in any earlier time. In the 1990, 1970, 1950, it would have been difficult to prove that that was the lie. Millions now living will never die. And so the Jehovah's Witnesses, the brothers and sisters you've left behind in your kingdom hall, they still believe that. And that is why God lets an operation of error go to them, that they may get to believing the lie, even though the thing acting as a restraint is now out of the way, in order that they all may be judged, because they did not believe the truth, but took pleasure in unrighteousness. And so, through the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth, the words that I put into your mouth, can you see a way to give a witness to your fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, mothers-in-laws, daughter-in-laws, and help them understand that they really are believing not just a lie, but the lie, and that the thing out acting as a restraint is now completely out of the way. We are now in the year 2015. There should be no doubt in any righteous person's mind that what I'm saying is the truth. Millions now living will never die is a lie. It is not just a lie, it's the lie. They positively will not die. It's the operation of Satan. So, as one of the sons of Zion, could you give a short witness in regards to these things, to these words that should now be in your mouth in such a way that your fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters will see that you're telling them the truth and that they do believe the lie and they don't believe the truth? So do you see how it is through the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth that the man of lawlessness will be done away with? And to wrap up this video, I'll go back to John chapter 15 and show you what the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth is. So here we are in John chapter 15. And in verse 26, it says, "When the Helper arrives that I will send you from the Father, the Spirit of the truth," the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth, which proceeds from the Father, that one will bear witness about me, about Jesus Christ. And you, in turn, are to bear witness, because you have been with me from when I began. And so, as one of the Disfellowshipped ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, one of the sons of Zion, the sons of Jacob, the sons of the living God, can you see how words are being put in your mouth? And can you see how giving a witness in regards to the man of lawlessness through the Spirit of Jesus Christ's mouth, can you see how that the man of lawlessness will be done away with? You have some easy words now with which to give a witness to your own fathers, your sons, your daughters, your mothers and fathers. They should see now the truth through some simple words that have been put in your mouth. So with that, I'm going to wrap up the video. Do you see how everything Jesus Christ said would happen is really happening? And is your joy increasing? Is your joy being made full? Remember what Jesus Christ said in chapter 16. He said in verse 24, "Until this present time you have not asked a single thing in my name. Ask and you will receive, that your joy may be made full." Do you need any help at all in achieving the task that's before you and obtaining those blessings, the things that are coming for you? Then say a prayer. Ask for help. Jesus Christ wants you to be successful and extends his help. That can be obtained simply through you're asking him. Can you see how everything Jesus Christ said would happen is really happening? And it's happening right now to you. Jesus Christ is awesome. With that, I'll close this video.